Aggie Radio 92.3 KBLU LP Logan. My name is Carson Frost, and you're listening to Fastbreak. So my co-host Heath Johnson, he fell a little under the weather today, so we'll be doing this solo, but I also got a very special edition of Fastbreak for you. So we had two special guests, both of them involved with USU softball, who's been having a big season. Really been fun to watch them here in these recent games, and we're getting close to the playoffs. So my first guest is Stockton Jewkes. He is the voice of USU softball broadcaster. He covers softball along with many of the other Utah State sports, volleyball, soccer, baseball, etc. And we kind of go into that in his interview. He's really been prolific as a broadcaster here at Utah State. And then along with him, we will have Kaylee Erickson, who is the catcher for the softball team. Really great story from her that you'll get to listen to as well, where she was pretty much out all of last year due to injury and was recently named the Comeback Player of the Year at the Sagebrush Awards. And she's had just a fantastic season. She's now fallen into the top 10 of the most RBIs in a single season. And she's also tied for second in college softball history with 4 Grand Slams this season. And there's still some games left, too, to where she could move herself up in those rankings. So anyways, without further ado, let's get to those interviews. But first, thanks again for listening to Fast Break on Aggie Radio. I want to take a moment and let you know that you can get involved yourself with our station. At Aggie Radio, we have opportunities to create a podcast, host your own weekly show, and help select the music played on Aggie Radio's regular rotation. Also, there are opportunities to help with some of the fun live events and special broadcasts that Aggie Radio puts together. If this sounds like something you might be interested, just text the word JOIN to 435-797-2346. That's the word JOIN to 435-797-2346, and we will send you an application to get involved. All right, without further ado, here is our interview with Stockton Jewkes. All right, you're listening to Aggie Radio 92.3 KBLU LP Logan, and we have a special guest with us today. He has a couple of shows with KVNU, Aggie Game Day and Aggie Call, and he's also an announcer with the Mountain West Network covering all sorts of high school sports and Utah State sports. It is Stockton Jewkes. Stockton, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no, thanks for the invitation, guys. It's always fun to come out and talk about sports.
Yeah, and as we were just mentioning, you do a lot more media work for Utah State and Cache Valley sports than people might realize. It's been, 6 or 7 years that you've been doing this?
Yeah, so I came out here as a freshman. I actually graduated high school back in 2018. I came out here for a year, and then I moved back home around COVID, took some time off. But I've been back out here doing play-by-play for Utah State probably since that spring season, so spring 2021, right after COVID, when kind of everyone was playing at the same time, and slowly have worked my way into getting with Cache Valley Media, and I do, like you said, a bunch of high school sports. I do Green Canyons football and basketball, and then during the spring, I get thrown around all over the place. So tonight I'll be at Green Canyon for lacrosse. Tomorrow I'm at Logan for soccer. But yeah, I do a ton of sports, but I love it. I mean, I'd be watching it anyway, so I may as well get paid to do it,
Yeah, and kind of going off of that too, when was there like a specific moment in your life where you kind of realized that announcing games was something you were passionate about and something you maybe wanted to do more long-term as like a career goal?
Yeah, so I actually came out here to study aviation. That's what I got admitted to do. I came out here to be like a professional pilot, fixed-wing major, and I kind of figured out that, throughout some things that were going on my freshman year, that just kind of wasn't the road for me. And so I had picked up the part-time gig doing like volleyball and soccer when I had moved out here as a freshman, and I really liked that. So when I came back out here and I started doing that, I kind of realized, this is something that I think is going to more suit my skill set, and it's also something that I feel a lot more comfortable doing. I'm a lot more passionate about. So it just kind of everything fell into place nicely like that. And I don't think it would have happened that way if I didn't come to Utah State. I mean, I always tell people I love the student opportunities that we get here. And I owe kind of my entire career trajectory towards Utah State and the opportunities that they give students. So it's been awesome.
I got a question for you, Stockton. So you said that you came out here to do a part-time gig. Can you go more into depth of what that gig was?
So we actually do hire students to do what I do with the athletics department like every semester. I just went on Handshake. It's one of the on-campus jobs, but you apply through the video department, and you'll talk to Bill Guerin and Taylor Davis, two people that I trust with my life. I love those guys, but we bring on students all the time to do play-by-play. So we've got, freshmen in there right now that are going to be doing the softball series next weekend because I'll be flying home that weekend. So we've got plenty of people that'll fill in for that. And yeah, if you're wanting to get involved, we have streaming assistant stuff too. We have camera operator stuff too. All that's just on Handshake, and it's part-time student jobs. So that's available for people to throw in applications to.
Awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then on top of that too, so this was your first year, right, with KVNU doing the Aggie Game Day, Aggie Call. Tell us a bit about those, what it's like to sort of become the local radio guy here in the Valley.
Yeah, it's been really, really cool. So my grandpa's actually from Cache Valley. He's lived in the Valley for a little over 60 years. He and my grandma met going to Utah State basketball games, so they're diehard Aggies. Then my dad, bless him, he went to BYU for whatever reason, and I had to correct the bloodline in that regard. But I came back out here, and it's been super cool. I started doing games with KVNU a couple years ago for high school. They were looking for someone to do Green Canyons games, and Jake Ellis, someone I worked with in the athletics department, he recommended me. They reached out, and then after a year of doing that, over the summer, Al Lewis retired, who he had been doing Aggie Game Day for 52 years, and he got a lifelong legacy. But my dad and my grandpa had been listening to Al for 50-plus years on this show, and they called me because I had been doing games for him for a year, and they were like, hey, we want you to come co-host this show. And I took me like 10 minutes to get back to him. I was kind of shocked. It was a really cool experience, but it's been awesome to get involved even deeper in that level because obviously I've been doing like women's sports for a while, but to get involved with kind of the bigger stuff has been really, really cool, and kind of going back and working in the press box that my dad and my uncle went and worked in. It's just really cool for me personally.
And sorry to interrupt you, Heath. I just wanted to say there's no shame, by the way, in covering the women's sports here at Utah State, especially nowadays. I mean,
it's been incredible. I've been here. I was here before we had Coach Manny, before we had Coach Rob for volleyball. The first year I was calling volleyball, I think we went 2-21 that year. And so to see Rob Nielsen come in and turn that program around has been awesome. I'm a huge supporter of women's athletics. Big proponent of everything that we've been doing as far as athletics development on the women's side of the game here at Utah State. And I think that Diana Sabo is doing a great job, too, of continuing that tradition. But, yeah, the women's games are awesome. And I think that if you're not supporting women's sports and you're not going out to those games, then you're missing out a huge chunk of Utah State athletics because that's where a lot of the fun is happening right now.
Right. So, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Heath.
So for me, Stockton, I'm born and raised here from Cache Valley. I've listened to Al Lewis on the radio, and I remember I was driving to my work, and I heard Al Lewis's last call that he did, and I was a little sad because I've listened to him for years. I'm 28 now, and so for most of my life that I remember of listening to broadcasts, it was Al Lewis for Aggie Game Day and all the shows that he did before that. And it's definitely some big shoes to fill. Like, how did you feel in that moment that Al Lewis has his legacy, and then KVNU said, hey, what do you want to do for the show? Like, are you up for that? Like, what were your thoughts? What was your process?
It was crazy. So Eric's like he's kind of the station manager. He's in charge of sports and stuff over there, and he hosts the 4 to 6 Full Court Press talk show on 106.9. So he kind of runs all that, and he's the one that hired me on for football. He called me like early August at like 9 in the morning. I was getting ready to go into Vivint. That was my summer job last year, as I was doing like customer retention at Vivint. And he calls me and he says, hey, we had this open up and we want you to host the show. Here's like the details. Here's everything. I said, can you give me like 15 minutes to digest this and call you back? I hang up and I immediately called my dad, and he started freaking out. And that's when I was like, oh, whoa, okay, this is a big deal. But yeah, I was honored that like they thought of me to do that because I'm very passionate about Utah State sports. I love it because of my grandpa and everything that I've learned from him. I came out to visit the Valley. I'm not personally from Cache Valley. I'm from the East Coast. I grew up all over the place, but coming out to the Valley growing up was always one of my favorite things to do. And this place is so special to me. So to be able to be involved like that, that was such a huge thing for me. And again, it was just, I felt really honored that they thought of me and reached out to me because I feel like I have worked really hard to cover Utah State sports and share my passion with people. So I'm proud of that.
Definitely something to be proud of about, especially coming here with the connections that you have and filling in that legacy and creating your own in a way. So it's pretty awesome of what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely. So we're getting here into baseball and softball season, right? And you've been covering softball for a few years now.
Yeah.
I think baseball, that's kind of new. Is this your first year doing baseball? Or?
Yeah, so Hayden Gardner, actually, he reached out to the JCOM department. And Stacey Kelly sent out an email back in like November, December. So I emailed Hayden separately, and I was like, hey, man, I'd love to do this for you guys. Like, I understand club sports, like, you guys don't have a budget. Like, we're not getting paid to do any of that stuff. But I played baseball growing up. That was like my first love. Is I played baseball for 12 years as a kid, and I loved it. I just was excited to get an opportunity to get involved. So we kind of built out the whole YouTube channel, and I built out all the scenes on OBS and stuff. We've been doing that for the last couple weekends, but that's been a ton of fun, and they've got a home series this weekend. It's a huge one. It's kind of their end of their conference schedule. They've got another road series after this, but Boise State's the team in second right behind them. Big series for who's going to go to regionals in a couple weeks. So that's going to be exciting. But yeah, I've been doing softball for probably since just immediately post-COVID as well.
For sure. Definitely wanted to give baseball a little shout out. I know they've been having a great year. Today was going to be a little more of a softball themed show, though. Yeah. I'm with the Statesman as a reporter. I've been getting more into their team here in the recent weeks.
Yeah, I've seen you out there at the field.
Yeah, and I know like I said, you've been covering them for a while. In fact, sometimes I'll show up to the park and I'll spend like the first half of the game just sitting in my car listening to you guys. I feel like you bring a lot of great insights to the team and to the game. Since you've been covering them here for a few years, what do you think about this year makes it different than any other USU softball team you've seen?
I mean, I think the first thing for me that kind of tipped me off it was going to be different was they started off hot offensively. Like when they were playing a lot of those road series, people don't realize this, they play almost 2/3 of the beginning of their schedule on the road because it's not warm enough to play softball here. Yep. So they have to deal with that. They have to play a lot on the road. That's difficult. But when they knocked off Purdue, I think they were ranked 19th at the time. That's when my eyebrows really kind of shot up, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a little different. And I remember they hired Todd Judge at the beginning of last year, and I had talked to him, and he was like excited to get the year going. But one of the things that he had said to me was recruiting is really where that's my forte. Is he's really well connected in the area. He obviously coached at BYU before this. He went to Arizona State. He's very well connected out in this like Southwest region, even all the way up to the Pacific Northwest. And so seeing kind of the fruits of that in the turnaround, he's got some transfers coming in from his older teams, and he's got some really good off-season work that's now manifesting itself in the offense. But seeing him kind of be able to put together a full off-season and translate it into this is huge because Utah State softball, they haven't had a above 500 season in the entire time I've been here. It's been forever since they've been successful, and so to see the turnaround is awesome for them. And not only are they probably going to go to the Mountain West tournament, but they're probably going to be a top 3 seed in the tournament, which is just nothing I thought was possible this year.
Right. And Heath, how about sort of your perspective? Stockton, he's the most keyed in out of anyone when it comes to the softball team. I'm kind of getting my feet wet, getting familiar with their group. Just from the fan perspective, what have you seen this year from softball that's really stood out to you?
I think of softball, one of the things that stood out to me is that our team, they hit a lot of home runs. And also Kaylee, who Carson interviewed yesterday, she also hit like one of the records or has one of the records for the most Grand Slams hit in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really cool from the fan perspective to see our players coming from Utah State, a little small college in Logan, Utah, that not a lot of teams know about, that we're actually I don't know, like the David and the Goliath. We're the David, and we're coming out and beating all these bigger teams.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually said this during one of the games this last weekend. I think it was during the Sunday afternoon game, but teams in the Mountain West are starting to go through what soccer teams in the Mountain West and what volleyball teams in the Mountain West went through immediately post-COVID, where Utah State used to be an easy trip. You go in, you get your wins, and you leave and you go home. Mm-hmm. It's not the case anymore. You got to fight for it a lot harder. Utah State's going to bring a lot more of a punch. And Todd Judge is really starting to come through on, the promises he was making when he came through as a new head coach. So It's really exciting. But, yeah, to your point, just to put some numbers to that offense, a couple weeks ago when we were calling the game, everyone on Utah State's starting lineup except for Kaylee had a above 300 batting average, but Kaylee was hitting a 289 anyway. And she had 7 home runs on the season to go with it. That number's gone up since then. Yeah. So they've just been succeeding at a phenomenal rate. They're the best batting team in the Mountain West. They're one of the best fielding teams in the Mountain West as well. I think they're second behind San Jose State with minimizing their errors in the back half of the season, which is huge. So they've been really hot lately, and I'm excited to see what they've got for the postseason.
I don't know how you feel about this one, Stockton, but I've kind of I'm an LA guy, and I've been calling this team the Dodgers of college softball, just because 1 through 9 they have big bats across the whole lineup. Everyone's capable of getting on base. Everyone's capable of hitting it out of the park. So I don't know how the Utah people feel about that, but that's kind of my analogy of what I've seen so far.
Yeah, there really is. There's no break in the offense. I'm going to take it to my favorite team, and I'm going to go opening weekend Yankees of this year with the torpedo bats.
There you go.
30-plus runs in one weekend. The offensive onslaught's been crazy. I think the one thing, if there's anything you really kind of need to focus on for Utah State, and this is another thing they've been adjusting well, and it's been getting a lot better in the back half of the season, but the pitching has really struggled. Their team ERA is right about 6, which that's not going to help if you got a plan to score at least 6 runs per game just to win. Other than that, I think everything that they've been doing, especially offensively, like we've been talking about, has just been phenomenal. And if you haven't been able to go see them play yet, you've got another chance, not this weekend, but next weekend. And that's probably going to end up being a big series for tournament placement, too. So go out and be supportive because it's going to be big.
For sure. I want to get to that in a second. You just brought up the pitching. I wanted to bring that up because we're starting to see them make some strides there. I mean, Emmeline Brinka has been under 2 with her ERA since conference play began. We've seen a little bit of growth from Danae Smith. I mean, their whole lineup is essentially new from last year, so there has been growing pains there. But are you feeling at all encouraged on where the pitching could be come postseason time? And also, how do you sort of assess a team that can be so great offensively but have these pitching struggles? Where does that kind of put them in the pecking order of things?
Right, yeah. So with the pitching, I think it is tough to your point. Like, we kind of had a full cycle of new faces. I think Danae is one of the only returners from last year. Our 2 best pitchers from last year's team, Haley McLean and Tess Buemiller, are both now leading the conference at Nevada. And Utah State's going to Nevada this weekend, so that's going to be an interesting series to keep an eye on because Haley's throwing a sub-1 ERA in conference. But, yeah, Brinka's been really good. She's been bringing down that ERA. It did kind of go up against Fresno State. There's been some times where I think that the timing of some of the pitching changes in regards to, like, some people having tighter leashes than others, sometimes I think that Emmeline's been left in a little too long and her stamina's caught up to her, and that's where her ERA's been ballooning because she didn't need to still be in that situation, specifically that first game of the Fresno series last weekend. But, yeah, if there's a couple things that you can tweak there, that would be awesome because as a whole, as a team, when you are expecting a little over 6 runs given up per game, going into the tournament, other teams are going to see that as an opportunity because you've got, Fresno State and San Diego State and UNLV with team ERAs of, between their top 3 pitchers below 3. So they're expecting to only give up 3 runs. They're expecting to win each game by 3. And it's tough to overcome that as Utah State. Now, Utah State is hitting everyone above their ERA. They're bringing everyone's ERA up because of how talented they are offensively. But when your magic number is 6 and you have to score 6 or 7 to win each game, that's still a tall order no matter how hot the bats are because you're not going to score 6 every game. You're just not.
Yeah, and it's really hard to do. Like, to your point, it's so hard to do that, especially in baseball and in softball. Like, you need to, get the bases loaded twice in order to beat a team, which is very unheard of to do.
Right. So we've already brought it up a couple times. Might as well bring it up again. This upcoming series against Nevada. Tess and Haley, we mentioned, two former Aggies, two of the best pitchers in the entire conference. I don't know what their pitching coach is up to there in Nevada, but they've really brought out a different side of those two. Do you feel like there's almost maybe some sort of advantage due to the familiarity aspect, kind of knowing what you're going up against with those two pitchers, or do you think it's just a whole different problem than just because of how great they've been on the mound? So
I think yes and no, and I think it goes both ways as well. I mean, with Utah State, you've got Haley thinking that she's going to come in and she's going to know how to throw to most of this lineup. Well, she's probably going to know how to throw to 3 or 4 of them, but more than half of your starting lineup for Utah State is not who was hitting last year. Between graduation and transfers in and out and stuff like that, it's a different team. And going back to Utah State as well, there's a lot of people in our starting lineup that haven't seen Haley pitch, and they don't have that familiarity with her. The other thing, too, is going to Nevada, her off-season program is going to be different now. The way that she is sequencing her pitches is going to be different. The way that they call plays, the way that they set up different defensive plays, and the way that they have her throw in accordance is going to be different. So there are similarities, and there's probably some body language things that you can get off of her, and you can kind of tip pitches with how she's using her arm and stuff. That's just from seeing her throw so many times. But other than that, I don't think there's anything that's really going to carry over from last year that'll help them because, like we were just talking about, it is such a different team.
For sure. And I wanted to bring up one other series that I'm kind of excited about, too. This one, in a couple weeks, they'll be heading to Boise. That's the series where I could see some, 35-plus combined runs between the two teams in a single game.
Yeah, if you think Utah State's offense is good, oh, my goodness, go watch Boise State play. It's been ridiculous. I mean, Utah State would lead in every offensive category if not for the top 3 hitters in Boise State's lineup. They're all hitting near 500 in conference. Some of them are hitting above 500 in conference. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, Sophia Knight for them, I think she's been hovering back and forth as, the best batting average in all of America.
Mm-hmm.
But that one, I think just for the viewership aspect, for an all-star game, batting practice type field, it's going to be a really fun series.
Yeah, so. Utah State, I think, is going to have a much harder time getting their offense going than Boise is, purely because of, I was talking about, the team pitching situation. Boise State's got a really good bullpen, too, and Utah State's bullpen just isn't there. That being said, you still got to play the games. You still got to do everything. But I think Boise State, probably out of anyone, is the team to beat in this tournament by a good margin. And I wouldn't be surprised if they end up in the College World Series this year because of, like you said, they have people that are hitting better than anyone in the country. That's World Series material.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too because they're kind of only around 500 in conference play. I think they've got some holes defensively that they kind of got to address. But again, just for the entertainment aspect, everyone should definitely check that out. And then one final thing I want to kind of look at is just we were talking about how this is really a unique team from any other softball team we've seen. And I think part of that is just the national prestige that some of these players have. We talked about, of course, Kaylee Erickson with her NCAA record for Grand Slams. Ariel Fafita recently was named the 6th best shortstop in America by D1 Softball. Giselle Gonzalez, early in the year, was able to win that National Player of the Week. So what has that been like from kind of your vantage point to, and again, it kind of adds to my fascination with the team where they have this national acclaim, I should say, and yet there are kind of these other holes that, it's just the difference between watching them be able to beat the 19th ranked Baylor and then be able to struggle against some of these conference teams that are kind of in the middle of the pack. What's that been like from where you're sitting?
Yeah, I kind of think back to when Lexia Roscoe was here several years ago and she was chasing the program home run record. I think she ended up coming 1 home run short in the final weekend series, and I was calling that series. And there's the excitement of it and everything, but really that was kind of the only thing going on with the program. The season was over. We were well out of the race for any sort of postseason. The Mountain West didn't even have a tournament at this point. So, that was kind of it. There has been so much more, and there have been a couple bigger records that have been broken. Ariel Fafita just this last week broke the single season and the all-time career runs scored records for Utah State. Giselle Gonzalez, 50 RBIs in a season. It's the most in a single season in Aggie program history. So we've had several of those records broken, and that's still not the biggest thing on the table for Utah State this year. And that's just how different it is now. Like, we had this 1 home run record that, single season, or maybe it was career home run record that everyone was really latched onto. And now we have so much going on because the team is winning. It's just such a different feeling. And going to the ball games too, it used to be kind of like a drag your feet type of thing where it's like, oh, we're going to go in and get beat by 13 and it's going to be a long game and it's going to be kind of tough to watch. They're fun to watch now. They're exciting, and I'm getting into them. And, I do mostly color for softball just because I played baseball for forever and I kind of have a decent handle on the sport. Obviously, I didn't play it, but being able to kind of see just how they play, in the field, how they take their at-bats, all this stuff, they've so clearly improved in the last couple of years, and it's really exciting because, again, a couple years ago, it was kind of a pain to go call those games, and it's just not that anymore. It's so much more fun.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you wanted to cover today, Heath?
So, Stockton, I got a follow-up question on that. So you said that with the softball environment now, creating that culture, it's more fun to go to the games now than where it was in the years past.
Yeah.
What do you think has made that change?
Definitely. I mean, success is nice, but I think I want to give a shout out to marketing too. They're in the booth with us during softball. They do a great job, and they've been doing really good fan stuff to get people involved this year. The Herd, of course, is just beautiful. I love them to death, and they've been showing up at softball. We actually had a dust-up at the game on Sunday, and the Herd was there, and they were right behind the Fresno State dugout, and they were, making themselves heard. They were respectful. They didn't get in anyone's face, and, the cops were there for optics reasons, but I heard the police talking to them afterwards. They were like, no, I thought you guys were very in line. Like, we didn't have any issues. But it's just, it's a different environment because, the team is succeeding. I think the marketing team is doing a great job of getting people involved. The Herd has done such a great job the last couple of years of expanding to supporting all the sports here at Utah State and not just, football and basketball. And part of it, too, is I think the work that the athletics department done with Diana Sabo, and she's had a great year with the department. Obviously, we're looking towards a conference realignment where in years past we've gotten left behind in these situations. That's huge. I hear that we're supposed to hear about the Pac-12 TV deal pretty soon. That's going to bring a lot of money to the school. So there's a lot of good things going on, and I think everyone just kind of feels that vibe and is getting involved, and that's what's making everything fun, because obviously success is fun, but when everyone's being a part of it and the school as a whole is lifting up because of it, that's what makes it more fun.
All right. Thanks again to Stockton Jewkes for joining us on the show today. Just wanted to stop real quick and let you know to stay in the loop with the most recent Aggie news by picking up your copy of the Utah Statesman. Fresh prints of the Statesman newspaper are available every Monday and can be conveniently found throughout campus. So you'll be able to keep up with the current events, local stories, and of course the USU sports. You can also text the word news to 435-797-2346. Again, that's the word news to 435-797-2346 to stay up to date on your phone. So from here, we will now get into Kaylee Erickson, the catcher for the Utah State Aggies. Aggie Radio 92.3 KBLU Logan LP got a special guest with us today. It is Kaylee Erickson, the catcher for Aggie softball. Recently just won Comeback Player of the Year for the Sagebrush Awards, and then we recently just learned too you've gotten into the top 10 all time for RBIs in Utah State history, so that's a big deal. And she's also top 5 in RBIs this year in the Mountain West, top 10 in homers. And another stat I like to bring up, 4th in getting hit by pitches, So she's quite the hard-nosed catcher out there, putting her body on the line. But Kaylee, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll kind of get into your journey here as a softball player because it's been quite the roller coaster for you.
Yes.
But I wanted to start a little bit with just kind of where we're at with your team right now. So it's been a little bit of a up and down season for you guys. There's been some series that I'm sure you wish could have back, but also, like, all things considered, definitely been one of the better seasons in the school's history in terms of, you guys are at the top of the Mountain West right now. But with the up and downs that you guys have had, what have you kind of been able to figure out as you guys came back to Logan and started conference play? Because recently we've seen things kind of on the uptick for you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is just getting that team chemistry back and having everybody at home and getting kind of the routine down. It was kind of up and down there for a second, but I think just like keeping the end in mind and making sure that our goals are set. And like we said at the beginning of the season that we wanted to win the Mountain West Championship. And I think just reminding ourselves that like that is what we want to do. And so I think just having these higher teams in the conference that we're playing, it's definitely got us on our A game and helping us get back on track.
Yeah. And talking about kind of the ups and downs that you guys have had, I mean, you guys earlier in the season, you beat ranked 19th in the country Baylor.
Yeah.
It's like the first time you guys have beaten a top 25 team in I think like 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
But then some of these other series against, there's been teams that aren't quite on that level that you guys have also struggled against. So it's just kind of been interesting there. So where are your guys' like confidence level at when you kind of have those ups and downs, when you've had like some real high highs and maybe even some lower lows this season?
I think what helps us like kind of get through it and come back from it is just remembering that's part of the game. It is the game of failure, which is kind of crazy. Like, we fail 7 out of 10 times and we're a great hitter. But I think like helping us, I think since we did have so many good successes in the beginning, that kind of carried us through and helped us realize how good we are. And then we got humbled and, had some of those tough losses. And I think that's good for any team, especially for us. Like, we're going to have losses, especially in conference against these such good teams. And so I think it was good that we had those losses early so that way we would know how to come back from that.
Totally. So now I wanted to kind of talk about your performances as well, because as we mentioned at the top, you're now top 10 all-time in RBIs. Another awesome stat from this year is that you're now tied for second, at least as of right now. There's still season left, but you're tied for second in grand slams in a season. You've had 4 this season. So I just kind of wanted to know, when you get up to the batter's box and the bases are loaded, what's kind of your mindset in those situations to be able to come through like that?
I think at the beginning I was definitely a little nervous, obviously, but especially coming off my injury, I was just trying to get my swing back. But now it's kind of crazy. I just come up with confidence, like, yeah, I'm going to get a hit right here. And I think that just comes from preparation. Like Todd always says that we're a team created on hard work. And so we're countlessly putting in swings and countlessly, taking ground balls. And so I think just trusting my preparation and knowing that, like, yeah, I have a plan. And even if I don't get the job done, I have my teammate behind me who's going to get it done.
Yeah, and you brought up the injury there. So you only played, I think like 2 games last year, right?
Yeah, like 1.5.
Yeah. And I think even before that, too, you were on a LDS mission, if I'm not mistaken. So what was that? Was that like 2.5 years pretty much of no softball for you? Or?
Yeah. So my last season, I did my first 2 years at BYU, and the last softball season I played was 2021. And so, then I left on my mission fall 21 and didn't get back till spring of 23. So it was, 2 years that I've missed of school and then the injury,
Yeah. So, kind of what was it for you during that time? How are you kind of able to stay together mentally and kind of push through that and then be able to bounce back this year?
Yeah, it was really hard. I'm not going to lie. When I left BYU, I wasn't planning on coming back and playing softball. It was kind of like, wasn't sure if I'd get my scholarship back, and, being off for 2 years is kind of crazy. But then Todd got the job up here, and I had played for him back in Arizona my senior year of high school, and so I was like, okay, yeah, like this is one of the best coaches I've played for, so let's take the shot. And I think something that really helped me was just that, like, since I had put my life on hold to serve this mission for, the Lord, and just trusting that, like, he would take care of me. Like, if I put in the work and if I did what I needed to do to get back in shape and, get those ground balls and hitting back, then he would take care of the rest. And then it was really just a gut punch when I got injured that second game of the season, because I was feeling like the best I had felt in a really long time. And I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of had a couple of yelling prayers where I was like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? And just trying to figure everything out. And but I think something that helped me was, so my little sister, Jocelyn Erickson, she plays for University of Florida, and she's a catcher for them. And she had gotten a really bad knee injury when she was in high school, and COVID had happened. And so she didn't play for like 2 years. And so talking to her through, how she came back through that injury, and she was like, literally just work your A off and just try your best, and what happens. And so that really helped me, and just like trusting that, like, yeah, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah.
Well, I think it's worked out pretty good up to this point. And that was another thing I found fascinating when I was researching you as well, as you mentioned the younger sister plays softball, and then you had a brother as well. I think was he baseball at BYU or?
Yeah, so there's 4 out of the 5 of us played in college. So my brother played baseball at BYU, and then I was with my older sister right above me at BYU playing softball. And then, yeah, Jocelyn's at Florida.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. It's sort of like, with basketball, all the like Johnson brothers and Gracie, the sister. It's cool to see like athletic families that can all make it to, the highest level, at least in college sports. So yeah, that was pretty cool to check out. But I also wanted to talk about just your role with the team. Obviously, as we mentioned, you're the catcher. A big part of that is, of course, like developing chemistry with your pitchers. And this year, you guys had a lot of turnover with your pitching staff. And, at first, we were kind of seeing a lot of them struggle at the start of the season. I feel like since conference play began, we've started to see, like Emmeline Brinka, Danae Smith. We've started to see some of these pitchers come along. So how has that been for you, working with them and seeing their improvement?
It's been awesome. I think it's just really cool to see, they put in so much work, and they really want to win and just want to do their best for the team. And just seeing like how far they've come, because they, came in, the majority of them except for Danae were all transfers, so brand new to the team in the fall. And just seeing, how hard they worked with the new pitching coach, and just trying to get their confidence back and everything. And it's just been really cool, and I trust them 100%. Like, it's really cool just being on the field and knowing that, like, we're in a groove, and, like, Todd's calling pitches, and we're just, like, going. And but, yeah, they've come a long way, and I'm really proud of them this year.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, I've talked to Coach Judge quite a bit here in the recent weeks. He does talk a lot about, like, the 3 phases working together, right? The defense, the pitching, and the offense. So how do you feel like that's kind of evolved throughout the year in terms of how those 3 phases work together?
I think in the beginning of the year, we definitely, like, our hitting was on lock, and we were really good. And then our defense, it was good, and then it got really good in the middle of the season, and it's just stayed great. And then, like you said, the pitching has kind of come a long way. And now I feel like this past series with Fresno, we finally saw what we can do when all 3 are together. Even though we, had that loss on Sunday, like, that was a really big game for us to see, like, how hard we needed to work to come out, and how hard we really need to play and come together in that time.
Yeah, and to be fair, I was there for Sunday's game. there's a little drama that went down. Got some players ejected and the dugouts cleared, so
Yeah.
that can also affect a game too. I thought that you guys were on a path to hopefully like pull out a win in that one, but you know, sometimes outside circumstances can change things. Talking more about the batting. So we were just talking off air. I kind of refer to you guys as the Dodgers of college softball because really throughout your whole lineup, there's a bunch of big bats. Everyone's capable of getting on base. A lot of you guys are capable of hitting it out of the park, getting extra base hits. And I just kind of wanted to run through some of the stats I found while researching you guys. So 15th in the country in batting average, 4th in the country in doubles per game, 7th in the country in hits, 16th in the country in on-base percentage, 22nd in RBIs, 23rd in runs, 24th in slugging. There's a lot of power on this team, a lot of players that just find ways to get on base. From a fan perspective, it really makes it a fun product to watch every day. And I'm sure it's super fun for you guys as well out there being a part of it. When you said a second ago, you kind of realized pretty early that you guys had something special there, but was there like a particular moment early in the season, or maybe even like as you were kind of getting ready for the season, where you realized like, okay, this is kind of different than anything I've been a part of before?
It's funny you say that. I actually just told the team the other day that, so I won a state championship my senior year in high school, and I hadn't had a team chemistry like that until this year. I think it was really like our fall was really tough. Like we got put through the ringer with conditioning and weightlifting and practice and everything. And so I think, with that, it's like trauma bonding, just like getting through that hard stuff together. And I think when I really saw like what we could really do this year was probably that first weekend in Texas. I don't think any of us really knew what we had until we just went out and did it and, beat Baylor and held Texas A&M till the 5th inning. And so I think that was kind of the spark of like, okay, we have something really good here. And then honestly, this past weekend, I was like, we can totally win it. Like we can totally do this if we really want to. It's been really cool.
That's awesome. I wanted to get back to pitching real quick because we were talking earlier about how you're starting to see some strides from the whole pitching group. But I wanted to bring up Emmeline Brinka in particular because just her in particular, she's not only like made strides, but since conference play started, she's been, I think, maybe like a top 5 pitcher in the whole conference. She's been like right under 2 for her ERA. We've been seeing like some more strikeouts from her, which is huge as well. You guys' pitching hasn't always produced a lot of strikeouts, so that's a big stride as well.
Absolutely.
And one of the first big games I was able to go in Logan and really see her ball out was it was last week, I think, or maybe the week before, the doubleheader against New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Where she had, I think, 145 pitches between the two games, and maybe allowed like 1 or 2 runs between both the games, had a good amount of strikeouts. So, like, again, all of your pitching is getting better, but how does Emmeline in particular, how does she sort of lift the potential of what your team could be going into the playoffs here?
I think just her attitude and her leadership. She's really taken on a role of just like being kind of the fire starter. Even if she's in the dugout, like she's allowed us when cheering, and she's always trying to just keep us on top and keep the positive energy going. And there's this thing that she does between every inning where all of us, put our hand on the ball and we take a deep breath, and then she's like, all right, let's get this. And then she just starts it off really strong. And with that, I think that's helped her gain confidence in her pitches as well.
Totally. One other thing I wanted to bring up here was defense as well, because defense has been another area where you guys have been one of the better teams like in the whole country. And I wanted to particularly talk about the Ariel Fafita and Giselle Gonzalez connection because
Fafita, she's the shortstop. I think I had that she has 347 putouts this year, which I think is about 30 or 40 more than anyone in the country. She's number one.
Wow.
And then Giselle Gonzalez is obviously, she's kind of on the receiving end of a lot of those throws as well. So just kind of that connection. And from your vantage point, being the catcher, what's it been like to kind of watch those two and how they work together defensively for you guys?
Yeah, they're awesome. I think the fact that they're both seniors and Claudia too at second, like that, we have a very wisdom and kind of experienced infield. And so, Ariel, she just balls out. She goes 100% every single time. And I think, we've known that from the start as a team. And so just trusting in her and knowing like, yeah, she's going to go hard every single time. And I think that helps her knowing us that we trust her, that she just goes out and, has a good time. And Gigi, I love that girl. She's so funny. But she totally puts her body on the line for any ball that comes her way. So I think that helps Ariel knowing that, as long as she's going 100%, Gigi's going to catch her on the back end, and I'll be there to back them up too if they need be. But yeah.
Totally. And got to give a shout out to the outfielders as well. I mean, just since I've started to cover this team more closely, the amount of like great diving catches I've seen. One player I've really grown to love is Kaya out in the right field, with some of her like catching the fly ball, then darting it to like first base for a double play. So yeah, no, just across the board, you guys have been looking great there. I think the one thing coach maybe want to see is less errors. This last week, I think you guys had 6 errors in 4 games. So what do you think that comes down to when, again, like you have such a like amazing defense in all these different positions, but here and there, bobbling the ball or just not making the play. Do you feel like maybe it's almost sometimes like a overconfidence, like you guys, or trying to make like the big highlight play because you guys know you're capable of making those kind of plays, and then maybe it backfires sometimes? Or
yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. I think the main thing is like sometimes we let the game get a little bit too big, and I like to always remind us that like it is just a game, and we've played this since we were 5 years old, and so yeah, I think sometimes we kind of let the game get really tight. That's what Coach likes to say a lot, is that we like to get really tight sometimes, and if it's a 1-1 game or we're tied ball game, and I think that's where the errors come in a little bit is when we let the game get a little bit too big, and so I think Todd described it a little bit, that we play our best when we're having fun, but we're focused in and locked in, and so it's a good like little mix of the two. And so, yeah, you can't get too big or too low. But, yeah, so I think – and it could be maybe a little bit overconfidence, I'm not going to lie. But I think, as long as we're going 100%, I don't care if they make an error as long as they're going hard. And, we're going to pick them up on the back end.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, for every error, you're also going to have, like, almost like a Sports Center top 10 highlight play, so it's almost worth it sometimes,
Absolutely.
But so I wanted to also just get to, of course, this upcoming series you guys have against Nevada. So you guys right now are ranked 2nd in the Mountain West. They are ranked 1st. You guys are obviously known for kind of your lights out hitting, and they're known for their lights out pitching, including Haley McLean and Tess. Is it Buemiller? Okay. I've only ever read her name. I've never pronounced it. But yeah, Haley and Tess, I know they were both with the Aggies last season, and they've been 2 of the top pitchers in the conference this season. So seeing them again, is there almost like an advantage for you guys there because you sort of know what you're getting from them? Or is it, they're in a different situation now, they have a new pitching staff, and they would probably even admit that they've gone to another level since joining Nevada. So yeah, I guess kind of give me the overall team's feelings with that. Like,
confidence that you're seeing pitchers that you're familiar with, or is it, kind of just an extra awareness of how much better they've been able to get in this season?
I think it's a mix of both. I think it definitely helps that, we did play with them last year, and so we know what their pitches are. I caught both of them last year, and so did Grace. And so I think just knowing what their pitches look like really helps the team. And, some of the girls had played with them for 3 years. And so, yeah, I think just knowing kind of what their tendencies are helps us prepare a little bit more. But definitely, they have earned our respect with, what they've done this season. So I think just going in there, we're going to put our best foot forward, and we know they're going to give us our best. So
for sure. And how do you feel like this series could really prepare you guys? Conference tournament, it's only about probably 2.5-ish weeks away now. It's the beginning of May. So, having this late in the season right before, you guys have to potentially play them again in a conference tournament, what could that do for you guys?
I think it's a really big, step forward for us because, sometimes teams change throughout the end of the season. Like San Diego State is a totally different team from where they were, and so are we. And so I think seeing them this late in the season helps us kind of prepare for more of that conference play and knowing what we're going to get. But yeah.
All right. So that was Kaylee Erickson. Thanks again, guys, for listening to this edition of Fast Break, the special softball edition. I hope that you guys enjoyed those interviews. And softball, by the way, we were talking a lot about that Nevada series in those interviews. So they played their first game in that series last night. Unfortunately, blew the lead. They had a big lead against those former pitchers, Utah State pitchers, but kind of blew things at the end there. They're playing again here pretty much as we speak. They got a game at 4 o'clock out there in Nevada, the second game of the series. So definitely go check that out. It's a huge series, one of the bigger series they've had all season, if not the biggest. But other than that, thanks again for listening to Fast Break. We'll have another show next week. Heath should also be with us next week as well. And take care. Yeah, you've been listening to Aggie Radio 92.3 KBLU Logan LP.